By the time Vivian built her criminal empire on my stolen ranch, I already owned the mineral rights beneath every mansion in her development. But let me back up. Picture this. I'm dodging mortars in Eastern Europe, serving my country, when I get a call that makes my blood run cold. Some HOA witch named Vivian has legally sold my grandfather's ranch. 1,500 acres of prime American soil that's been in my family since 1892. The same land where my Purple Heart grandfather is buried. Sold for pennies on the dollar while I'm bleeding for freedom overseas. I come home to the sound of gravel crunching under surveyor boots, watching strangers stake out my family cemetery. Vivian thought she'd stolen everything from a broken veteran who couldn't fight back. What she didn't know was that Grandpa had left me one final gift buried in those 1960s property documents. Legal ownership of the ground beneath 50 luxury homes worth $47 million combined. What would you do if you came home to find your inheritance stolen? Drop a flag emoji. Where are you watching from? Because this could happen to anyone, anywhere in America. This is how one veteran turned an HOA land grab into the most expensive property lesson these thieves ever received. My name is Staff Sergeant Ezra Thornfield, and I'm a third-generation rancher who just spent 18 months keeping the peace in Eastern Europe. While I was dodging bullets and missing my grandfather's funeral, some HOA vulture was circling my inheritance like a hungry buzzard. The Thornfield Ranch, 1,500 acres of rolling hills, pristine pastures, and the clearest spring-fed lake this side of the Rocky Mountains. Grandpa built this place from nothing after World War II, using his GI Bill and Purple Heart pension. Every fence post driven by weathered hands that knew real work. Every barn beam cut from our own timber. This wasn't just property, it was 3 generations of American blood, sweat, and tears. The ranch borders an exclusive development called Willowmere Estates, 50 lakefront mansions where tech executives and trust fund babies pay $200,000 to $500,000 for the privilege of living next to real America. These people have never worked a day of honest labor, but they sure know how to complain about the smell of cattle and the sound of roosters at dawn. I pull into my driveway after that nightmare flight from Germany, expecting to see familiar pastures. Instead, I'm hit with the acrid smell of fresh surveyor paint marking century-old oak trees like death sentences. Bright orange "sold" signs stab into my family's soil like daggers. Surveyors with clipboards are mapping my land, driving stakes through Grandpa's prized rose garden where the scent of crushed petals now mixes with diesel fuel from their equipment. 800 acres, gone. Allegedly sold to the Willowmere HOA for $2.3 million. That's robbery at $2,875 per acre for land worth at least $8,000. My savings account shows $247. My remaining 700 acres are suddenly under development restrictions that nobody can explain. But here's what made my blood boil. They'd fenced off our family cemetery. The sound of chain link rattling in the wind around my grandfather's fresh grave still haunts my dreams. That's when I meet Vivian Ashworth. Picture every nightmare HOA president rolled into one perfectly coiffed package. 52 years old, drives a white Mercedes G-Wagon worth more than most people's annual salary, and measures grass height with an actual ruler. This woman has filed 47 HOA violation complaints in the past year alone. Her victims probably just wanted to live in peace. She's standing in my driveway wearing a smirk that could curdle milk. Military housing allowance doesn't cover property taxes, does it, soldier boy? She says, not bothering with introductions. She shoves forged documents at me, papers claiming tax delinquency that my bank records prove never existed. Your grandfather should have planned better, she continues, adjusting designer sunglasses that cost more than my monthly combat pay. This is what happens when military families think they're above civic responsibility. I'm standing there in my uniform, fresh off 18 months defending her freedom, and this parasite lectures me about patriotism. The irony burns like tear gas. Leave our property immediately or I'll have you arrested for trespassing, she threatens, speed dialing what I assume is her personal sheriff. Here's my nightmare. Divorce lawyers and legal fees had drained my savings to $247. The local attorney? Vivian's golf partner who couldn't take my case due to conflicts. County clerk's office lost all original property records. My bank claimed no record of automatic tax payments I'd religiously set up. Standing there, watching strangers stake out my grandfather's grave, I made a silent promise. Vivian had no idea who she was messing with. But something about Grandpa's knowing smile in his old photos suggested he'd left me more than just land. Military training teaches patience, strategy, and finding enemy weak points.